Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, Westfield's Grand Park celebrates 5 years. How can schools help fill a shortage in the medical fields? Trendiana features some of Indiana's best coffee shops. Airplane technology takes the spotlight in our INnovators segment. A homegrown hemp company looks to expand the industry. How hiring practices can help keep schools safe. And our panel of insiders weighs in on the top stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Grand Park in Westfield is celebrating its 5th anniversary. The 400-acre sports campus features facilities for sports ranging from baseball and football to field hockey and lacrosse, and is home of training camp for the Indianapolis Colts. Westfield Mayor Andy Cook joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about that and other developments in the city.
All right, I want to talk about Grand Park and
Sure.
the impact, but the Colts are just wrapping up, have just wrapped up training camp there, the first year of a 10-year deal. What is that meant?
Well, you know, that is one of the projects, one of the, I guess, happenings that we hadn't even considered when we dreamed of Grand Park. And several things like that have happened. We've been very fortunate, you know. Grand Park was created, one, to develop a commercial tax base in the area of hospitality, and further to develop the business of sports. And thirdly, we intended it to become the national destination for family travel sports. And as you mentioned, it's now renowned throughout the United States.
Not everybody, 5+ years ago, not everybody was on board with the idea, right? There was some opposition.
There was a lot of opposition. You know, Mayor, what in the world are you doing? You know, I don't know how many times I heard, if you build it, they will come, and they did, though.
Yeah. Well, as you look at the impact that Grand Park has had, it's become this destination. The Pacers, Indiana Pacers, have a facility there as well. That entity continues to grow, and it's part of this bigger strategy. I mentioned Grand Junction, the downtown redevelopment that's in the works. Talk about this transformation that's happening in Westfield.
Yes, and that's a great word. The transformation, it really began, we've been there about 12 years now, but about 10 years we began to develop this, and it started with, Grand Park dream that we need to develop an industry, first of all. And of course, secondly, the world of a mayor has completely changed over the last 10 or 12 years, where our job now is to create a place where people want to be. And it's very difficult in this flat topography and lack of natural resources. So we have to be very creative. And so what we've been able to do with Grand Park, and now with the transformation of the downtown into a destination, unlike some of our neighbors, it's very eclectic, reusing old buildings around a $35 million, very, very unique downtown destination. Placemaking.
And placemaking, a big part of that is keeping talent, but also attracting talent to the community.
We have to.
Business development, Bastion, a Toyota subsidiary, I believe,
yes,
announced plans for an expansion there. Talk about business development and how that plays into this whole need for talent.
Well, really, and that is, again, utilizing our assets. We're very centrally located. We're right on the US 31 corridor. We have some shovel-ready, some 300-400 acre ready in North Point development, where Bastion Toyota just opened up this within the past year. And we are looking for the advanced manufacturing kind of businesses, because we can attract the engineering, the designers, and to the north we have a great blue-collar workforce. So it works out very, very well.
What's next, and how do you manage the growth? Because it's the things we talked about. It's residential as well, Chatham Hills, and a number of other places as well. How do you manage that growth?
Very carefully. We do have a lot of demand for residents to come in, and we really look to balance our housing. We need a good variety of housing. Obviously, with Bridgewater and Chatham Hills, we're probably the smallest city in America with 2 Pete Dye type resorts. But we have to balance that with the kind of corporations that we can also be bringing in. In fact, we're getting ready to accompany the governor here in a couple weeks to Japan in business development. Again, building on We have the Toyota facility there, and we'll be visiting with the Toyota people in a couple weeks.
Yep, searching out business around the globe. Mayor Andy Cook from the city of Westfield, again, a city really that is changing and in transformation dramatically. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right.
Still to come, the best in Hoosier coffee and an airplane tech company joins Dr. K on the INnovators. But first, are businesses currently able to find the talent they need? What about 10 years from now? The latest in our Project Lead the Way series focuses on shortages in the medical fields. St. Vincent Ascension Chief Nursing Officer Cindy Adams came in studio to take a look at the issue and what's being done to address it.
We talk a lot about challenges in workforce and job shortages. Nursing is the #1 in-demand occupation in the state of Indiana, and at the same time, that shortage, that gap is very acute as well.
It's very acute, and we're seeing not only #1 in-demand job, we're seeing a projected growth in the demand in nursing jobs in the range of 19% in Indiana over the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. We're also seeing that being compounded by the fact that we're seeing some nurses leave the profession. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy job. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of change. It's not always an easy thing to do every day. And so we have people leaving the profession. We have finite numbers of nursing school seats coming mm-hmm. into the profession. And at the same time, we have an aging workforce. Right. So we think by 2030, we're nationally going to see about another 1 million nurses retire, and that will complicate the problem.
Wow, those are some striking numbers. I know it's forcing major organizations like St. Vincent Ascension to look at new and different ways of attacking the issue.
Absolutely. One of those ways is making sure that the nurses and healthcare professionals that we have are working at the top of their scope, which requires us to rethink how we create teams mm-hmm. and how we lead teams and approach care delivery in a different way. Mm-hmm. The healthcare industry is changing dramatically as we speak, mm-hmm. and we're working on not only how to reconfigure our care delivery teams, but how do we embrace technology in a different way? How do we bring other disciplines to the table in solving the problem?
And that connects. I know you have a partnership with Project Lead the Way that really is about developing that pipeline. I think in the high school levels?
Absolutely, yeah. Yes. We're very excited at Ascension in St. Vincent and in Austin, Texas and mm-hmm. Pensacola, Florida, at working with Project Lead the Way mm-hmm. in the biomedical program in the high schools, helping students who are taking courses in that area, and we'll be doing projects over the coming mm-hmm. year, experiments or product development projects, where in April Ascension associates mm-hmm. and leaders will sit down and hear presentations of their project work, and we'll evaluate the programs and the presentations on innovation and creativity, on the integrity and the rigor of the science that they use in their projects, team collaboration, and just the overall presentation. And those are the kind of skills, sometimes referred to as soft skills or transferable skills, that we think are going to be really important in the future of the healthcare workforce.
So it really gives you insight in creating a pipeline in identifying the talents needed in this new age of medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Cindy Adams is the Chief Nursing Officer at St. Vincent Ascension. And certainly, like many organizations, you're seeking that talent, partnership with Project Lead the Way, helping you do it. Thanks for joining us.
Very excited about it. Thank you for having us.
Later in the podcast, Dr. K spotlights an airplane tech startup in the INnovators, and a Hoosier hemp company says there's room for growth. But now, it's National Coffee Month, and Indiana has no shortage of options. From Indianapolis to Greenfield to Muncie, Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith has a rundown in this month's Trendiana segment.
There's lots of coffee places around, but we're beginning to see, it sounds like, small coffee shops popping up in cities and communities, towns of all sizes.
Yeah, they're great hubs for community growth. You're seeing more and more Hoosiers put down maybe some of the big name brands and going to local coffee shops, putting their dollar there, turning to local beans. It's really a great process.
As always, you give us a great trip around the state of Indiana. We begin here in Indianapolis at Cleo's Bodega.
Yeah, Cleo's Bodega. So this is a beautiful example of a business that has located itself in what was once a food desert. Now they're a coffee shop that's serving Tinker coffee, selling local produce. It's a place where people can come to have meetings. They have a great outdoor space and creates a hub right there in the MLK and 26th area where people can come out and be a part of it.
Very good. Let's go out east to Greenfield and Porter. coffee.
Yeah, Porter Coffee. This stemmed out of their original business at Fort Bend in Lawrence. This is now their second location. They're roasting all of their beans right there on site. They also make their own baked goods, as well as using a lot of local ingredients. You know, they've got local honeys, a whole array that you'll see on their menu. Great
In Greenfield,
supporters.
I think we were talking earlier, a good example, there were a couple of coffee roasters in a small community.
Exactly. You're seeing these main streets and these squares popping up with tons of local coffee shops. So they're able to sustain it.
All right, let's go north on 31 to Kokomo and Bine Cafe.
Yeah, this is a language learning center meets bookstore meets fair trade coffee shop. People love how inclusive it is. You're going to hear different languages spoke, a lot of different ingredients used that have a little international flair. So it's really, truly a community space.
Back in Indianapolis, and I know the folks at Tinker Street, Tinker Coffee, are entrepreneurs.
Oh my goodness, yes. So a great example of that is their instant coffee pouches, you know, using their local or their beans that you can do your own cup individually without having to brew a big batch. They're going to have 2 locations in the Indianapolis airport later this year, as well as their 16th Street location where you can come in and have a coffee shop in 2020 and coffee cupping classes.
Wow.
There's so much going on there.
There is a lot going on there. Java House Cold Brew is in Carmel.
Yes, this is solid cold brew for all of their drinks. It's steeped over cold water for 12 hours, so it's a very specific type of coffee, and they're distributed throughout the state, and it's a great option for an extra jolt, even more caffeine.
I might have to check that out. The Caffeinery is our last stop, and that's in Muncie, right?
Yes, this is a beautiful historic building, tall ceilings, right there located near the Children's Museum in Muncie. They're roasting their own beans, which are also sold online, so a great example of e-commerce through the coffee shops. And then they're known for their butterscotch latte, as well as their French toast bagels, so you can go there to get some eats as well.
And quickly, you mentioned the pouches, so this is about innovation too, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is going to go beyond, think about going beyond our state's borders with these coffee businesses and what they've created. Wow. You're even seeing now, you know, distilleries using the barrels for the roast, and tying it all together.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. National Coffee Month, and Brittany Smith, great overview of some cool coffee shops around the state.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, Heartland Harvest Processing banks on the state's hemp industry, and schools look to smart hiring to help stay safe. But first, Flycart is a Purdue-affiliated student startup developing what it calls a lighter and smarter galley cart for airplanes. The company says the cart's design also minimizes the risk of accidents on flights when there's turbulence while passengers are being served. Co-founder Yuhan Rowe spoke with Donald Korotko on the INnovators with Dr. K.
So I always ask all my guests, where did you come up with this idea?
So me and my co-founders are airspace engineer, and then we fly all the time. And then every time I flew, we always ask the questions like the airplane food cart. You know, we're talking about aircraft engines that are noise-free, emission-free, and then the cart's been saying for 40 or 50 years. So what's up with that? And then, you know, we kind of dig it along and researched about it and be like, you know what, we design aircraft engines and stuff, and why don't we just get into airplane food cart and make the difference? So that's kind of how it all started.
That's great. So what's the specific problem that's solving?
So the problem we're solving is the aircraft weight. We believe airlines are currently overspending millions and millions of dollars because airplane food cart itself is so heavy and inefficient. So that's the problem we're solving.
So explain like specifically the innovation behind this when you say making it lighter.
Sure. So current airplane food carts are about 25 to 35 kilogram.
Okay.
Our product's going to be 8 kilogram, containing same amount of food and same structure. So right now there are about let's just say domestic flight under 6 hours, and then small plane contains about 30 carts, and then just one way, we can save them about $400 per flight. So it's going to be a lot of money.
In fuel?
That's correct. Just the fuel, just the weight itself. And then, you know, the airplane food cart isn't the only thing that's in the cabin, so you can imagine.
You know, it sounds simple, I'm sure, to the audience. Why hasn't this been attempted before?
So 2 reasons. The aviation industry is very conservative because it involves the human lives. Any innovation or new technology adapt to it, it's not as easy as a Silicon Valley where they come up with a neural net and apps and stuff. You know, it has to be thoroughly checked and certified. And the second reason is the current airplane providers are working on many different things, such as aircraft one-way, their landing gears, rocket engines, rocket fuels. So I believe that it has been neglected a little bit. So we want to tackle that and fix this issue for them.
Overlooked, you know. What's the potential market? I'm sure it's obvious, but what is it?
So we definitely want to get into the aviation industry, and then our client's going to be airlines.
Right.
So we have talked to many different airlines, and that's going to be our potential market that we're getting into. We're already in the market, so.
Yeah, it's great that you're in and you've already connected with them and stuff.
Yep.
Potential capital funding?
Yeah, so far we've been getting into pitch competition and the Startup Accelerator,
Right.
and then the Burnt D. Morgan Purdue Entrepreneurship Center.
Great.
Those have been our main source of funding.
Sure.
But we definitely want to welcome and invite VCs and the angel investors to see if they can be part of our startup and help us grow.
Growth potential? What do you see?
Oh man, like bringing new technology to air travel, that's going to open up so many doors. Imagine if you can order meals through your smartphone. The cart itself is another thing. What if the cart never hits your legs every time we pass by? That's another thing. So we want to do maybe an object avoidance system, something like this. It's definitely going to open up a lot of doors when we're inside the system.
Key steps this year ahead for you?
So we are getting into manufacturing and distribution.
Right.
So we definitely want to work on how we're going to make, let's just say, 8,500 to 10,000 carts in a day. So that's going to be what we're getting into. That's going to be the main thing we're going to work on this coming year.
Great. Well, as I do in each and every show, I give some prescriptions, Dr. K's prescriptions. And so for you, I came up with the ABCs of venture growth challenges. And the A stands for acquire capital for the next steps, which you're going to be doing, which is great. The B is build a distribution sales network, which again, you've already mentioned, that's the year ahead. You're going to be working in there. And the C is consider strategic partnerships in the airline industry. You're already networking with them. You've got them interested. It may be some strategic partnerships that can really help you.
Yep. Thank you.
So I hope that helps going forward.
Absolutely.
And where can our audience find you, Johan?
Yeah, so far our website is under progress because of the patent issues, but they can definitely find us from Facebook or Instagram. Just type in Flykeart, Flykeart.
Okay. Fantastic. Great. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, Gary. A new innovation that could really help the airline industry, and it's going to be pretty impactful right here from Indiana.
Later in the podcast, more new technology to keep schools safe and perspective on the top stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But now, Heartland Harvest Processing processes industrial hemp into value-added hemp products including CBD, fiber, and usable biomass. The company also helped hundreds of farmers and others learn about what it takes to have a thriving hemp farm at its recent field day. Founder Chris Moorman talked about the company with Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
Let's just start with a short introduction into Heartland Harvest Processing. What does your company do?
So Heartland Harvest Processing is the wing of the Heartland Harvest family of companies that actually takes the raw product from the field and gets it into a usable product. So for a parallel for corn, we would be the corn syrup manufacturer up in Lafayette. So that's kind of a pretty important piece for our hemp farmers here in the state.
Absolutely. With this being the first season, so the harvest is right around the corner, correct?
Yeah, we will probably start harvesting. This is a photo period dependent plant, so we'll be harvesting probably the first week of September through the first or second week of October. So it'll be a pretty tight window, and it'll be a big adventure compared to harvesting corn and beans like our farmers are used to.
And you have done your first run at your processing facility.
Yeah, as of 2 weeks ago tomorrow, we ran our first commercial run, so that'll be the first commercial runs for CBD in the state of Indiana. And we had to get some stuff out of our friends from Kentucky, but we will be harvesting Indiana stuff from greenhouses here in the next 2 weeks. So those will be the first Indiana runs.
And this is such a new industry to Indiana. You're working with the Purdue Extension Office, and you say because this is so new that credibility in this industry is really important.
It is. Anything in the cannabis-related spaces is going to attract some pretty unsavory characters, and we've seen a couple of them running around the state. But it's really important for Indiana farmers in particular to get with people who have got an agricultural background. If somebody comes in and says, I just came out of real estate, but now I'm in the hemp business, be careful. We've seen a lot of farmers who have literally made a bet. Unfortunately, they might have bet the farm on this because it's a very expensive product to get out into the field. Harvest is a problem, and drying is a thing that Indiana does not have the infrastructure for, unfortunately, like Kentucky, where they were hanging things in tobacco drying barns. So we've seen a lot of people jump in with both feet, and I'm afraid that we're going to have some farmers who kind of wish they'd have dipped their toes in a little bit more this year.
And just one place you're selling your CBD to is Circle Kombucha in Indianapolis. Tell us, you have your own company also. getting these products out there. Tell us about that company.
Yeah, so the way our umbrella works is we partnered up with a great farm family, Klein Family Farms, up in Hartford City, Indiana. That's kind of the farming wing of the operation. My brother Eric and I are running the processing side, and then we also have a collaboration with the independent pharmacists here in the state of Indiana with a product called St. Jean, named after our 86-year-old grandfather. But that's found at 33 Indiana pharmacies right now. And we really wanted to partner with somebody who could talk to patients about how this can fit into their overall wellness regimen. We thought that was really important. You can see gas stations and grocery stores and pretty much anybody selling CBD these days. We thought it was really important to have an actual healthcare professional have discussions. So that's why we decided to go with that. And I know up in Rochester and all over northern Indiana in particular, we've got a lot of pharmacies who are carrying this with great success for both their patients and their bottom lines.
All right, well, I know you're headed into a busy time with harvest season around the corner, so good luck.
Still to come, our panel of insiders weighs in on Indiana's top business stories. But first, Danville-based Safe Hiring Solutions says it is using next-generation technology to improve safety in schools. The platform includes police-level background screening and active shooter training for staff and students. Founder and CEO Mike McCarty joined us with more.
No, we had you on the show a number of years ago. You have continued to grow the company, 15 years old now, and really was spawned out of your background in law enforcement.
Yeah, it really was. I spent about 10 years in law enforcement in Nashville, Tennessee. Had the unique privilege of actually being part of a very preventative-based program within Nashville. We had about 25 women and children killed every year, looked at the data, put a program together, reduced that in half, and took that model out to the private sector to apply it to schools and other organizations.
I know your company has always been relevant, but in this day and age with so much violence that we hear about, read about, see around the country, I know there's a lot of attention on your company, your Safe Visitor proprietary technology. Talk about that and really what it's all about.
Yeah, so what we've seen the last few weeks, we've had several major incidents in the United States, and really what Safe Visitor does is it really starts to help an organization work a lot with the K-12 schools, help them to really know who's coming into your building and start to understand who these people are before they ever get to their front door. Most schools have thousands or tens of thousands of volunteers, and we make sure that they're properly vetted and then credentialed to be able to scan in and out of the building so you know who's in the buildings.
Yeah, a lot of your work, most of your work focused on K-12, and it's really, again, preventative on the front end, right? And that's an important piece.
It is. I think, unfortunately, most of the discussion today on school safety and school violence is either what we would call at bang, where an event happens, or right at bang after something happens. You certainly have to be prepared for that. Seconds matter when you're saving lives. We want to spend a lot of time left of bang, really trying to connect dots, put the pieces together, behavior-based, and really understand and intervene before somebody actually wants to bring a weapon into the school.
Talk about the growth of your business, because obviously K-12 is an important piece, but your teams and various teams and folks you have who work for you are into businesses and other variety of sectors.
Correct. We have 7,000 clients across the United States. They range everything from professional sports to large corporations to international volunteer organizations. Just right now, the K-12 space is, really had a huge impact with school violence.
Yeah, I know training is a big piece of this. We don't have much time left, but as you look at making classrooms safe, the workplace safe, what are the tips? What are some of the keys?
The keys is trying to move things away from the front door, and then secondarily, then you plan for a breach. And that is if somebody gets in the front door, and then how do you close down classrooms and keep the classroom safe in the event of a breach?
It is a fast-growing company in Danville, Hendricks County here in Indiana. Mike McCarthy is the founder and CEO of Safe Hiring Solutions. Mike, thanks for coming in this week, and please keep us posted.
You bet. Thank you.
All right.
And finally, our insiders give perspective on Indiana's top business stories. This week's panel includes Katz Corin Cunningham co-founding partner Norris Cunningham, Hathaway Strategies president Ann Hathaway, and Short Strategy Group CEO Frank Short.
Indiana's colleges and universities, and we are fortunate to have both on the public side and private side a lot of great universities. Frank, this week I think a good example of how they're engaging in a lot of different things from an economic development and otherwise standpoint. Purdue getting a first of its kind lab to study and examine and innovate when it comes to food safety around the world. They competed with other universities to get it. Purdue is going to host the lab along with Cornell University. Another feather in the cap for Purdue.
Well, I think it's an example of the kind of educational institutions we have in Indiana. They're always on the forefront, always working. I have to give credit to the president of Purdue. He's a very innovative thinker, and I'm sure he's worked on that, the other projects he's been working on. And I think it's, again, is another example of the kinds of things that Indiana is doing, the state schools, the 31 independent schools that we have here, to work on, to make the brain drain, the brain gain. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a shining example of that.
Yeah, another example of perhaps Indiana leading in the whole of food, feeding the world equation. Going down to Bloomington and IU, innovation there as well. IU Ventures really beginning to grow and attempting to connect entrepreneurs and innovators, and for that matter, professors at the school with IU alums and others who can help get products, get ideas, get innovation to the marketplace, which is what it's all about.
Well, it is, and it's going to take it outside of Indiana borders, across the country, and bring in alumni from across the country to work with these folks. I mean, to Frank's point, we've got really good things happening in Indiana, and as the governor says, we're taking the world to Indiana, or Indiana to the world, and the world to Indiana, and it's pretty exciting.
Yes.
It is. I think that this the IU Ventures, one of the most unique things that I like about it is this opportunity that it gives for their professors to really take advantage of their own intellectual property and have an outlet for that in a way that increases their ability to get their name out there, to be known.
Which hasn't always been the case in Indiana. It's much better
correct.
now.
That's exactly right. It hasn't always been the case. And this is an opportunity for them to really get some recognition, some national recognition, some global recognition for a lot of their own intellectual property. It's a great thing.
Yeah, and we mentioned the state's private institutions. Franklin College, with a huge initiative, they're about to launch the Pursuit, which is what they're calling the most comprehensive change and evolution, I guess, of their curriculum.
Yeah, I'm a fan of liberal arts. I'm a product of a liberal arts education myself, and to see Franklin College taking this huge step, really, I think dealing with one of the knocks against liberal arts education has always been its lack of relevance to experience-based learning, right? I mean, the idea that you sort of learn these esoteric concepts, but no real application to career development and professional development. And here they are coming up with a process and a strategy throughout the education of their students for giving them some experience-based learning, some information with regard to technology, having them work in actual settings on career development and professional development. That's a big step for a liberal arts college, and it really should be applauded. Yeah, shifting gears a bit to the farm and the agriculture economy. In Indiana, a very wet spring, and in recent weeks in some areas very dry too, so the weather has been a real issue. The USDA came out with yield projections this week that were not positive. Aren't going to know for a few weeks exactly what happens, but a lot of concern on the farm. And Ann, you grew up in a rural area, our resident farm expert on the panel this week. Your take, because I think most people think it's going to be it's going to have a negative impact, but maybe not as bad as some.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We had a rough spring. There was a hurry to get crops in the field when the weather finally turned. But it's really actually too early to know what the real impact is going to be. We're going to learn a lot as we get tractors or combines in the field to harvest. Obviously, we're concerned about the prices. When's the first frost going to happen? But it's really too early to know where we really are.
Yep, and we'll see it. I call farmers the ultimate entrepreneur because they are out there really fighting it on their own. Speaking of water, communities around the state, Frank, are really beginning to embrace the water. The White River study, 52 miles from Hamilton County down to downtown Indianapolis, on what to do and how to take advantage of the White River. In Fort Wayne, they did Promenade Place, just had a christening of that redevelopment of the three rivers. I think that's part of a trend where folks are saying, hey, we can leverage and really embrace the river.
I think one of the knocks we've always heard about Indiana, we don't have oceans, we don't have mountains. But we do have waterways, and in a lot of places like Fort Wayne, the new Promenade Plaza, South Bend, the East Race Waterway, the 52 Mile, like you said, study of the White River, This living for these millennials is all about quality of place, quality of living, and that kind of feature, extra benefits, adds to it.
Yeah, and Norris, I know we were talking before we started here. The question is that business, that commercial, that economic development that can happen.
Right. You look at Fort Wayne and the Promenade Place. I think it's a wonderful thing for that city, and you have to applaud all the steps that Fort Wayne is taking to really sort of compete. When it comes to being able to draw citizens and drawing economic development. But at the end of the day, things like Promenade Place, as great as it is as a public feature, the question becomes whether or not that's going to spur the kind of private development that's really going to take Fort Wayne to the next level. Yeah. Going from water to air. More nonstop flights, and not just in Indianapolis. Indianapolis getting nonstops to Tucson and also West Palm Beach in Florida, but Fort Wayne and South Bend getting some seasonal nonstops as well. So air service, maybe it's a sign of the economy and those types of things, but continue to improve.
Continues to grow, and it's spurred by demand. Yeah. And I think this is exciting. And we've talked about this before. More flights in and out of Indiana means more people want to be here.
Yeah, and I know Fort Wayne and South Bend are really happy to begin to get more air service as well. And here in Indy, up over 50, I think, nonstops. It used to be the big knock. There are hardly no nonstops, but now correct, and that's always a big deal. I've said before when I was here, my clients appreciate being able to take one plane to get here. Right. If they're coming here for any purpose to visit me or to conduct business, they want to make sure that they can get here and only have to take one plane. So the more nonstops we have, the better it's going to be for the city. That growth is tremendous for us. Okay, we've only got a minute left. We have to talk about Andrew Luck. Everyone else is. No one knows what's going on. But Frank, what's your take? What do you see as how this plays out?
I think it'll be ready opening week. It's going to be a great season. The playoffs are coming. Get your tickets early. Let's go, Colts.
Okay. All right. And how important is it to have that the Colts be good and be exciting? Everybody likes a winner, but that has an impact on downtown,
it does.
The environment, the attitude.
It makes a big difference with regard to putting people in restaurants and bars, and you can always feel it in this city when the Colts, when the Pacers are doing well. It's really fun.
Yeah, there are a lot of medical experts out there I've been hearing from, or so-called medical experts. We'll see how that all plays out. Norris Cunningham, Ann Hathaway, Frank Short, thanks very much.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.